Hello and welcome to your first online lesson. Miss Gardner, Miss Washington, and I are very excited to be teaching you this way. It's new for us, just like it's new for you. So sit back and enjoy today's lesson. Each week, one of us will be doing your mini lessons, and you're going to get a little bit of teaching from all three of us. It should be a fun adventure for us all to embark on. So, this is Mrs. Cowan, and today I'm going to talk to you about author's purpose and point of view. So, let's get started. Some of this you already know. You've been exposed to, you've been hearing it over the years. This is meant more to kind of remind you of what the author's purpose are and what point of view is. So, what are our learning goals for today? I want you to be able to understand and identify the different purposes that are in text. Um, and these can also carry over to other types of things like videos or audio. We also want to understand how the author's point of view affects the text. And that is definitely something that we will talk about as well. So, what is the purpose? Did you know that everything you read has a purpose? Everything you watch has a purpose. Everything you listen to has a purpose. Um, People do things with a purpose. And so when the author writes something or produces something, whether it be a book, a magazine, newspaper article, website, they do it for a purpose. So let's talk about what purposes authors have. And a purpose is really the main reason why they're writing or producing that selection. So I like to remember author's purpose by the acronym PIED, P-I-E-E-D. The first one being persuade, I is inform, explain and entertain, and describe. And we're going to look at these a little deeper in just a minute. But just remember pied. Think of a piece of pie, pied with past tense, even though that's not really a word. So, moving on. What is the author's point of view? So, when an author writes to either entertain, persuade, or inform, they're going to have a point of view on the subject. And the point of view is the author's opinion on the subject, or it is also the author's perspective. And we've learned about different types of point of view. In literature, we have first person point of view, second person, third person omniscient, third person. So there's lots of different points of view in literature, and that's basically whose eyes the story is being told from. So, how does author's purpose and author's point of view go together? They seem kind of unrelated, but actually they are very related and intertwined with one another. The author wants you to see their topic from their point of view or through their eyes, just like Ruby Bridges in Through My Eyes. She's telling her story from a first person point of view, where how she experienced it. Point of view, like I said before, is also known as perspective. And for some issues, you're going to be able to tell if the author is either for something or against something, and that is their point of view as well, their opinion, if you will. So you know the purpose. Once you know the purpose, you're going to be able to better understand the selection. Understanding the purpose also helps us know how to read a selection. So if you'll go back to different types of text structures, those are going to come into play when we look at what these different purposes are, because certain text structures are used within certain author's purpose. So if you identify a text structure, that will help point you in the correct direction of what the author's purpose is. So let's say the author's purpose is to persuade. This is the first one in our pie. If the author's purpose is to persuade, they want you to believe what they think. They want you to believe how they feel on a certain subject, and they're normally nonfiction. Um, However, in order to get you to believe them, authors use facts and they to support their opinions. So in tomorrow's lesson, we're actually going to look a little closer at how authors go about doing this. So with persuasive pieces, it's clear the author's point of view. They're either going to be for something or they're going to be against it. So the next one we're going to look at is inform. And if the author's purpose is to inform, you're going to learn something from the selection. So informational pieces sometimes use one or more of the following. They might use facts, places, events, people. And so they're really just telling you about it. An example of this might be a history textbook. The purpose of a history textbook is to inform you, to instruct you, to teach you. So that would be an example of an informational piece. Um, Explain is our first E. If an author's purpose is to explain, they're going to tell you how to do something, or they're going to tell you how something works. One of the best examples of explanation for a lot that we all use is YouTube. Whenever I need to know how to do something, I go to YouTube and I'll find somebody who knows how to do it, and they explain to me how to do it. So some examples include instructions, examples of things, or how something works, cookbooks, all of those types of things authors use to explain. The next one is entertain. Um, a lot of time, entertain, when you see the entertain purpose, that's going to be with a fictional text. However, that's not always the case. Sometimes we have plays, we have poems, joke books, stories, comic strips, cartoons, just things that really are just there to entertain you. That's their only purpose. They can involve real characters or they can involve imaginary characters. So I think about today's TV shows. Um, they might be realistic, but they are really there to entertain us. You can even go with something like Survivor. Survivor's that TV show. It's not teaching us anything. It's not informing us of anything. Really, we're just entertained by it. So when you can't find any other type of purposes behind it, it's possible that the author just wrote the piece to entertain you. The next one is to describe. This is our last one. And when they describe, you're going to be given details that are going to help you experience something. It's going to help you imagine something. We use this in literature where we say paint a picture in your mind. So description pieces normally use one or more of the five senses to help get across what picture they want you to paint in their mind. You can't paint a picture in your mind without any description, without any of using of your five senses. So that's what the purpose of a description paragraph is, or a description piece. All right, so we're going to get a little practice with this. I want you to look at this. This is a bottle of aspirin, and I want you to determine what is the author's purpose. Now, I bet you never thought about a bottle of aspirin as being a piece of text, but it actually is, and there is a purpose behind what's written on a bottle of aspirin. So look at these and decide, what do you think the author's purpose is in putting this on the back of the bottle of aspirin? So if you pick inform, you are correct. The label contains information and instructions. It tells you what is in the bottle. It tells you how to use what's in the bottle. And so all those are important. If we didn't have those guidelines, we wouldn't know the correct dosage to use. So again, a very informational piece is telling us how we need to use something. All right, next one. Let's try this one. Your three choices are to inform, entertain, or persuade. So read this little paragraph right here and determine if you think the author's purpose is to inform, entertain, or persuade. I'm going to give you about 15 seconds. All right, so did you say the author's purpose was to entertain? If you did, give yourself a pat on the back. The author tried to capture a suspenseful mood in the story. And if you'll remember back when we talked about elements of fiction, mood is definitely something that we look at. In this story, most likely is fiction. All right, let's try this one. Identify the author's purpose. All right. So, can you identify the author's purpose? If you thought that the author's purpose was to persuade, you are correct. And this author is using an emotional appeal to do the right thing. And we're going to talk about different types, different ways that authors use to more or less get their point across, how they want to persuade you. This author wants you to read, and they actually, the last sentence is a call to action. They want you to do something. They want you to turn off the TV and they want you to read. And so this is telling you that's their call to action. We want to persuade you to read. All right. So that concludes today's lesson. Tomorrow, we're going to be learning about how authors persuade. They use three types of ways. There's ethos, pathos, and logos. And you may have heard of those and you may have never heard of them. So if you're curious and you want to Google ethos, pathos, and logos, you can. I'm going to teach you all about it tomorrow. So let's do your 30 minutes of reading and fill out your reading log. Don't forget to fill out your attendance form for today as well. And have a great rest of the day. Thanks for joining me.